The horror at Dismal Creek. A desperate man by the river. On the afternoon of May 6, 2008, deep in the untamed wilderness of Western Virginia, 54-year-old Ricky Williams stood motionless at the edge of Dismal Creek. His fishing line stretched taut over the glassy, motionless water, yet not a single ripple disturbed the surface. No fish, no food, no hope. His dog, his only companion during these long, grueling weeks of isolation, sat beside him, ears twitching, eyes darting toward the tree line. The animal was uneasy. Ricky's stomach gnawed at itself with hunger. Their supplies had dwindled to almost nothing. If he didn't catch something soon, they might not eat at all. Dismal Creek, despite its bleak name, was a breathtakingly remote sanctuary hidden along the Appalachian Trail, a legendary 2,200-mile stretch of treacherous beauty that cut across the eastern United States. The hikers who braved its depths followed a sacred, unspoken rule. If a fellow hiker was in need, you helped them. Ricky had been counting on that, praying for it. But the woods remained eerily silent, and then his dog stiffened. A whimper escaped its throat, a sound so low it was almost imperceptible. Something was coming. A voice. A man's voice drifted through the dense forest behind him. Ricky's fingers tightened around his fishing rod. His body went rigid, every nerve in his body on high alert. Was this the help he had been hoping for? Or something far, far worse? A stranger in the woods. The footsteps grew louder, crunching through dry leaves and broken twigs. The presence moved closer. Ricky forced himself to breathe as his pulse hammered in his ears. Then, finally, the figure emerged. A man in his early 30s stepped out from the trees. He was of average build, his expression open, friendly, even too friendly. "Hey, how you doing?" the man greeted, his smile stretching a little too wide. Ricky exhaled slowly. He forced himself to relax. This man didn't look dangerous. Maybe he was just another camper. Maybe, just maybe, he would help. The stranger introduced himself as Scott Johnston. He said he was camping nearby with a friend and had come to fish. Ricky's stomach twisted with hunger. He wasted no time. "You got any food?" Scott chuckled, reached into his pack, and tossed over a couple of energy bars and a bag of chips. Then, as if offering an unspoken invitation, he handed Ricky some fresh bait. A harmless gesture. Or was it? The two men fished together as the day stretched toward dusk. Finally, the fish began to bite. Ricky's spirits lifted slightly, but hunger gnawed at him, relentless. Then Scott made an offer that Ricky would come to regret. "Why don't you come back to our campsite for dinner?" A flicker of hesitation. But Ricky was hungry. His dog was hungry. Against the whisper of unease in the back of his mind, he said yes. They gathered their gear and trekked through the thickening darkness of the woods. Scott led the way, his fishing rod slung casually over his shoulder. Then, something strange happened. Scott's rod snagged on a low-hanging branch. He muttered a curse, struggling to untangle it. After a few moments, he turned to Ricky and said, "Go on ahead. It's just up the hill. You can't miss it." A warning bell shrieked in Ricky's mind. Go on ahead? Alone? The unease clawed at his gut, but he didn't want to seem paranoid. So he swallowed it down, forced a nod, and stepped into the unknown. The man by the fire. The flickering campfire painted the clearing in shifting, jagged shadows. And then he saw him. A massive figure crouched beside the flames, his hulking form eerily still. He was enormous. Twice Scott's size, at least 4 times the size of Ricky. He poked at the fire with a thick branch, embers glowing like dying stars at its tip. The moment Ricky entered the clearing, the giant turned. His eyes locked onto Ricky's. Cold, dark, measuring. Ricky's breath caught in his throat. He had made a mistake. Before he could retreat, Scott arrived, clapping a hand on Ricky's shoulder. "You've already met my friend, Sean." Sean did not speak. He just stared, and he did not let go of the branch. A meal with the devil. Ricky sat stiffly by the fire, his muscles coiled, trapped. The silence stretched between the 3 men, heavy and suffocating. The flames crackled and hissed, but the tension was louder. Scott and Sean cooked the fish over the fire, their knives flashing in the firelight. Ricky offered to help clean them, but they refused. "No need." Scott waved him off. "We got this." A simple dismissal. Or a warning. The blades glinted as they sliced through flesh and bone. The rhythmic scraping of metal against fish scales sent an involuntary shiver through Ricky's spine. The way their hands moved, too practiced, too precise, made his stomach churn, but he was hungry. He forced himself to eat. The food was warm. The fire was warm. The eyes watching him were ice cold. That's when Scott made the mistake of asking about Ricky's life. Desperate to break the tension, Ricky spoke about his love for the Appalachian Trail, how he meditated, how he felt at home in the wilderness. Scott and Sean exchanged a glance. There was something in their expressions, a shift, not amusement, not understanding, something else, a creeping sense of recognition, the sound that shattered the night. By 8 p.m., Ricky had had enough. He thanked them for the meal, grabbed his dog, and turned to leave. He had barely taken 10 steps when the night erupted, a deafening explosion. The air shuddered with the force of it. Ricky's body tensed. He turned back, just in time to see Sean's hand fly to his face. His fingers came away dripping with blood, because Sean had just been shot. Beyond the firelight, someone had been watching, waiting. And now the hunt had begun. What followed that night at Dismal Creek was a bloodbath, a desperate escape, and a terrifying revelation. One that would expose the true identity of Ricky Williams. Or rather, the man who called himself Ricky Williams. His real name? Randall Lee Smith. A murderer. And this was not the first time he had killed.
Mhm.